All right, it's time to talk basketball. I'm Jose Salviati, editor at thepeachbasket.net. He is Steve Purciello, longtime educator, vice principal, high school basketball coach, athletic director, and also the host of Celtic Chalk Talk. Celtic Chalk Talk is a pod dedicated to the latest news and opinions surrounding the Boston Celtics, the East Conference favorite Boston. I'm a lifelong fan, Steve. The pod will drop new episodes every Monday, but this is the Shot Clock Pod, the best 24 minutes of random NBA thoughts online anywhere. This podcast was born out of the content in Steve's 13 Rules random NBA thoughts articles, which he publishes weekly. Steve and I have exactly 24 minutes to discuss what's on his mind around the NBA. Today we'll discuss his latest 13 Rules random NBA thoughts article, where he shares his random thoughts after week number 24 of the 2025-26 NBA season. Now, if you're listening to this show, we want you to know that this is an independent, fan-driven show that is a part of the Peach Basket Podcast Network. We're not owned by a big media company, which means what you hear comes straight from real fans like Steve and I, who live this game every day and have for decades. If you believe voices like this should be heard, the best way to support us, it's simple. Keep listening, tell a friend. When this episode ends, head to the peachbasketpodcastnetwork.com. Check out more fan-run podcasts and help this independent network grow the way it started, organically, one hoops fan at a time. We really thoroughly appreciate your support. All right, Steve, are you ready?
Let's do it.
Let's go. Clock is running. Lots to talk about today. Now, in this article this week, you did something a little different, so we're going to do something a little different. You listed some coaches that are on the hot seat. Now, we're going to go and take those coaches one by one. And as we discuss why they're on the hot seat, we're going to put them in order. All right. So a little different approach than what we normally do. And hopefully we have time to talk about some random thoughts around the Lakers that you called out, as well as the Knicks, and a little bit of bonus content if we can get to it. But let's start with the coaches. Unfortunately, things didn't go as well or as planned for several NBA teams this season. We're going to start with, we'll do these in order. We're going to start with the Orlando Magic. Now, the Magic have not had a bad season. This has been pretty good. But when you think about expectations for the Magic going into the season, it hasn't been great. And Coach Jamahl Mosley is on the hot seat. Tell us why.
First of all, I think the cardinal rule in any coach from 8th grade to professional, you get along with your best player. Him and Paolo have been going back and forth. Paolo talked about adjustments and Mosley responded to it. And so you know that there's not things that are real good. In fact, it's been said Banchero during timeouts is looking somewhere else and not paying it. He's lost. Yeah. That's one piece. The other piece, a couple weeks ago, they went on I guess it was Toronto, went on a 31-0 run. Now, when you give up 31 points in a row and your team can't score, it tells me something about that they quit. And are they quitting on Mosley? Now, those are some of the things that I've seen. Now, they also, in the offseason, went all in by acquiring Desmond Bane. Because they couldn't shoot threes, Bane can shoot them, and Bane's a good player. But they haven't gotten better. So, in fact, they're probably doing just about what they did last year. So, you take all that, not getting along with your best player is the biggest thing, but you take all that, you realize if Mosley has anything, he's got to win a series or two. And I don't think the odds are real good. And I think Orlando, who's not known to spend money, is trying to spend some money, and it didn't work out. So somebody's going to pay for it. And I would think it's going to be Mosley, especially you want to keep Paolo happy. But I will say one more thing to think about. Would Milwaukee do Paolo and a draft pick or two for Giannis?
Would Milwaukee do that? Of course Milwaukee does that.
Okay. Just something to just put out. Because if you're going to stick around with Mosley and if you think he's the answer, you got to do one or the other.
Yeah.
You know, and if you take Giannis, you're playing for one season or 2 seasons.
Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned Giannis because his coach is on your list. Yes. And I think if you were to switch Banchero for Giannis, that might change things a little bit for Doc Rivers because let's jump to Doc. We'll do this a little out of order, right? Which is fine. You said Doc is on the hot seat. Obviously, the Milwaukee Bucks have been really bad this season. But if they blow it up, Doc Rivers does not want to be around for a
That's right.
rebuild.
That's right.
And you called that out, and that's absolutely true. Now, if they were to get Banchero, it's not a rebuild anymore. It's a retool.
Oh,
Right?
it's a
Does that change?
rebuild. It's a
It's
rebuild.
still a rebuild. Okay, go ahead.
There's not much there. There's not much there. Miles Turner is probably one of the biggest disappointments as a free agent making $25 million a year. I would think Portis would want out because he wants to, and they would do that because Portis has rewarded Milwaukee, the Bucks, over the
For
years.
sure.
And I
Yeah.
think Kuzma will go. So what? I don't think anybody. I don't know if anybody wants Kuzma, but the point being, they got Rollins, who's a pretty good point guard. Not great or nothing that's knocking you over, but he's pretty good. What other assets does Milwaukee have? If they have Banchero, they don't have a lot around that. So I don't. It'd be nice, but I don't think so. And I think the thought being, if they're going to rebuild, Doc's not the guy. Not just because he doesn't want to be there. He's better with veterans. There's a whole bunch of things, and I think by mutually they would move on. That's my take on it. Unless Doc is clinging because he wants a million win, not a million, but to set the record with wins and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
But even that, what's he going to get next year? 25, 30 wins? No. So
Okay.
that's my take on it.
Okay. So now let's rank them. Who is most likely to get fired? Mosley or Rivers?
Mosley or Rivers? Mosley.
Mosley. Boom. All
I
right, let's
think,
go.
like I said, though, you got to qualify that. Rivers would be a mutual agreement, more
Yeah.
so. You don't want to fire Doc because he's been around forever. He's a Hall of Fame coach, all that stuff. You know what? Just go away. Don't let's make it a nice mutual parting.
I got it.
So
All right, very good. Let's jump to the next coach on the hot seat. And this is a bit of a surprising one, I think, a little bit, because this is the number 6 team in the East. And this is a team that, honestly, I had no expectations that they would be this good. So if you deal just with expectations, I think they probably have exceeded those expectations. But why then is Darko
first of all, there's a
Rajaković
lot
on the
of money
list?
involved. There's a lot of
Yeah.
money involved, and they made a mistake with quickly. So somebody's going to pay for that. They're paying him a lot of money, over 30, I believe, and somebody's going to pay for it. Ingram's getting 40. I believe Barnes is getting 40. So you're over the cap. Now, when you pay that much money, you want better than sixth place.
Yeah.
Darko's been there for a couple of years. There's one piece too. They have not done well against top teams. Their record is not real good against the good teams. So that says something. There's just some issues here that need to be fixed. And you start looking at it, and I don't think Darko's done a bad job or a horrible job or any of that, but you start
Yeah.
looking at it and say, we can't get rid of contracts. It's going to be difficult to get dealing quickly would be next to impossible. So what else do? We get rid of him. And don't forget, Bobby Webster, who's the GM, just got hired. And he's going to be, you always cover your, you know what. And also,
Yeah.
Darko wasn't his hire. It was the previous person. I can't think of his name. Anyway, it was the previous person who made the hire. And sometimes they want their own person coming in. He's going to be there.
Of course. All right, yeah, but you did call out another thing that helps Darko is he's well liked, right? And
Player,
that's right, and that's what you called out. It may not be happening in Orlando, so that's going to work to his benefit. Let's talk about another guy who is generally well liked and generally pretty successful, but just has not been able to get the Chicago Bulls over the hump, and that's Billy Donovan. So what's going well? And before we get to Billy, I forgot. Let's rank them. We got Mosley first, between Rivers and Rajaković. Who's second? Most likely to lose his job.
probably Rivers. Probably.
Okay, so we'll go Mosley, Rivers, Darko. Go ahead.
Yeah, that would probably be it. Now, who were we just asking about? Who are you?
Billy Donovan. Why is he on your list? This is a well liked guy.
You see, there's a lot there. First of all, does North Carolina come a calling? If they can, I think he want to because he can win where the Bulls are in a rebuild. The next thing on that is the word is him and Karnisovas don't get along great. Donovan's waiting to see what the Bulls do with him, with Karnisovas after the season. So there's little factors in this. If Karnisovas stays and North Carolina offers, he's headed to North Carolina. There's no doubt. If Karnisovas goes, there's a couple factors. Does Billy Donovan? He's getting older, I believe. He's near 60. Does he want to move into the front office? Does he want to continue to coach? And if he wants to go to the front office, it might be his. So then there's got to be, do you want to continue to coach, or do you want to try to make something out of a mess, which is what the Bulls are right now? If you watch them play, they don't defend, they don't do anything. Everybody's looking at their own contract on the team. So whoever gets the ball shoots. It's just a horrible thing to watch, and they're giving up ridiculous amounts of points every night. So I would think the Bulls, if they're going to cut their losses, Karnisovas they would get rid of before Billy Donovan. Billy Donovan's a good coach. He's just got nothing to work with. So that, I think, is something that might be more of a mutual type situation.
Fair enough. Now, you softballed me a perfect segue. Speaking of giving up ridiculous amounts of points, we're going to talk about the Washington Wizards next. How's that for a segue? That is an A-plus segue. But before we do, I want to order these, right? So we got Mosley first, then Rivers, then Darko. Where does Billy Donovan fit in that list?
I think Billy's ahead of Darko because Billy Donovan because it's more of a mutual again. And if the Bulls don't do what I think Billy Donovan wants, I think he's just going to walk. He's going to try to walk because he does have a contract, and sometimes you can't go somewhere else because of that. But I think there's quite a few NBA teams that would love to take him. Now, I didn't mention in the article, but just think about this. The Knicks wanted him last year. What happens if the Knicks flame out in the playoffs?
Ooh, yeah.
But it's feasible because
Yeah,
there was 10 guys the Knicks wanted before they ended up on Mike Brown. And Billy Donovan was one of them. But then you're talking about the Knicks would have to give a draft choice up to get Billy Donovan. It gets complicated.
sure. All right, again, stay in the East. We'll talk about the Wizards, the horrible defensive team through some of it through no fault of their own. They brought in some players, Trae Young and Anthony Davis, would certainly help on the defensive side, but they're not playing right now, and they're likely not going to play. They're definitely not going to play this season. So Keefe was hard to develop a young team. Is it working? Is he on the hot seat? Are they going to stay with him when they bring in those veterans next season?
This is just my thought. If you have a coach and you're starting to build something, generally you start on the defensive end. How many points did Bam get a couple weeks ago against them? And then I think last night or 2 nights ago, the Heat lit him up for another 150. They're giving up ridiculous amounts. They have the worst defense in the NBA.
True.
So, and I'm not saying Keefe has got buy-in or doesn't, as much as that's not a good. If you're rebuilding, that's not good. So that makes a problem. The other problem would be you got two guys, all stars at one time or another in their career, coming in. What do you think the buy-in on Brian Keefe will be among those two guys? So I think you shake his hand, say thanks. You were the steward of two bad teams, a couple of years of bad teams, but now we're going in a different direction. That's my sense, and I think that chance is pretty good. I think that would be probably because we got the two mutuals we talked about, that it might be a mutual decision, Doc and Billy Donovan. I think that would be the second after Jamahl Mosley, most likely because of just being fired.
Got it. Perfect. You feel for the guy. I think he was put in a situation that nobody really could have done any better. It was just a bad team going through a bad run and really prepping for this year. They kicked this year, playing for next year. They kicked this year to the curb a while ago. So it's a difficult situation.
Don't forget the new GM who's been their president, Winger, the president of the organization. He's been there 2-3 years now. You want something better than 25 wins.
Yeah.
So he's got to step it up. That's why Davis and Trae Young are there. And so that's my sense that they're going to make a move.
Yep. All right. The order so far: Mosley, Keefe, Rivers, Donovan, and Darko. Let's talk, and we'll stay in the East. We do have some West teams, though. Let's talk about the Pelicans. James Borrego, interim tag, but sometimes some folks excel in that with that interim tag, and sometimes they don't. The Pelicans have been just a weird team, no identity. And this is just me talking now.
You're right.
But what do you think about Borrego?
Well, first of all, I think the Pelicans have more talent than what they've shown. And I think there's a lot of problems just getting it together. Zion has played a lot this year, but you never know with him. And DeJounte Murray is coming back now. And so there's talent. I think the biggest question here is Joe Dumars has been the president for a year. He walked in, he kept Willie Green for the first couple of weeks of the season, and then he fired him. And he put Borrego in. Now, generally, GMs want their own person as a coach. I think Borrego was the first assistant, and he became the coach. The question is he somebody Dumars thinks can do a good job in the long haul, and he owns him? Or does he want to go out and try to find something better that he can own? Because he's putting his neck on the line if he does go with him and they don't get better. So
Yeah.
that I think is the whole crux for the thing. And generally, general managers or presidents, whatever they might be, will want their own guy in this situation.
Sure.
So I think Borrego's got some issues. The only way he could have saved himself is if they came on and competed and were close to getting to the play-in after that horrible start. And they're not even near that. So I don't think he's going to save himself. And I think you put him with Keefe in that area, with Brian Keefe.
Yep. Yeah, let's just drop him third. But I think it's a bit of a toss-up between those two. So
Yeah.
a quick update, right? We got Mosley, Keefe, Borrego, Rivers, Donovan, and Darko has the most security amongst this
not
rough
great.
crew. But it's not great. All right, let's take a look and see who is next on the list as we go down. Now, we're going to stay in the West now. Odd calling the Pelicans West, but this is true West, right? And this is a team that I just feel so bad for. It's like I want them to succeed because they've just been so bad for so long, and they've got such a loyal fan base, and that's the Sacramento Kings. This is just a hodgepodge. Again, no identity. What are they trying to do? And when Doug Christie came in, if you remember, this was a guy who's beloved by the team. This was by the franchise, by the city. This was a guy who was on the last really good team that the Kings had and did some good, energized the city. They lit the beam. There was some fun going on in Sacramento, but it just hasn't been sustainable. And they've got a quirky owner. What do you think Doug Christie's future is?
Well, I think they're gonna keep him, but you never know with the Kings because they do things that are crazy. Vivek Renadive likes Christie, so that's very important because he's got his fingers in everything on that team.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. The GM Perry just came into the job, and does he want his own? Does he want to clean it? And I don't know if Vivek Renadive would allow that for him to fire him. I think he's safe enough because he'll get another year to figure this out. The problem becomes, and I think Zach LaVine just said he was taking, which he'd be crazy not to, was taking his contract option next year for $46 million because he's not getting $46 million anywhere. So already you got a problem. There's a lot of money going out. Nobody if you can get rid of LaVine, God bless you. So, right away you have a problem. You also have a center that's been hurt all year. Hurt them, and they've got the kid Reno, who's a center, and he's played well. So you're thinking you might want to move on from that, but then again, what are you going to get? And so it's just a hodgepodge of players that DeRozan's a free agent, so at least I believe they'll get that money off the books. But it's just a hodgepodge of a bunch of people that all are decent players, but it just doesn't work. And think about that. 2 years ago, I believe, Mike Brown was there, and they got in the playoffs. And they were, the third seed or so? And they did get beat in the first round, but they went from that to just being a circus. And that's the Sacramento Kings. As long as Vivek has owned them, it's a circus. So for me to sit there and say Christie's in or out, I'm going to bet in, but who knows? If Vivek's oatmeal's a little cold, he might fire him. It's a sad situation for the Sacramento fans because it's a good place.
Right. 100% agreed, and I wish the team nothing but success. There is our list. We've got Mosley most likely to go, then Keefe, Borrego, Rivers, Donovan, Christie, and Darko is the safest among the list, but it's iffy.
Yeah.
Not a list you want to be on for sure. Outstanding. Well done. We do have a little bit of time, and there's two topics that I'd like to go a little bit of time. We want to talk quickly, if we could, about you wrote about the Knicks, which is also, again, we can never talk about everything because you read a lot of good stuff, and make sure to read it. We'll link it wherever you're watching or listening to this today. But let's talk briefly and just give a couple minutes to the Los Angeles Lakers. This was a team you wrote about that was a dark horse in the West, undeniably. This was a team that was just firing on all cylinders, and then one game changed everything for them. What do you see for the Lakers now?
First of all, and Reeves is going to be out for a while. Luka's going to be out in the first round. Now, they would probably either play Houston or Minnesota first round.
Yep.
I thought those two teams would be the first two out of the good teams, of the six good teams. But I think whoever gets the Lakers is going to win because unless LeBron goes back to being 25 again, because you just don't have enough points there. Unless Ayton all of a sudden decides he can score. But it's just not there. But here's the interesting thing. Thursday night, I believe it was Thursday, but anyway, everything changed. Everything changed. The Lakers going into the game thought they had a shot, a dark horse shot at upsetting some people. First quarter and second quarter, they were getting blown out of the building.
Yep.
Reports say Luka, the trainers checked him out and put him back in because he felt something going on there with his hamstring. But they put him back in. Now, if you watch the game, and I saw Reeves in the first quarter was holding himself, his stomach and his back. They didn't pick it up for a while. I was watching it. But I'm saying to myself, something's wrong here. He went down. Here's the piece. If the Lakers decide to run this back with LeBron and pay him, they have to know they aren't good enough to win it. So that was what was the most telling. You could talk about the injuries for this year, but when you're getting smoked by Oklahoma by 30 with those guys on the court, you got a problem. Yeah. And they have to sit and say, I don't know if we can compete with this team. And to win it, you got to go through a team like Oklahoma and San Antonio and so on. No doubt. So the issue becomes bigger than the injuries. Yeah, okay, if they were healthy, they might get through the first round and so on and so forth in the playoffs. And maybe they will anyway. But bigger issue is the Lakers are always talking about they want to win the whole thing. Do they have enough to win the whole thing? My answer is obviously no. They're not close. And that was very apparent in that game against Oklahoma. Do you think the Lakers, you're the Laker fan, do you think the Lakers could beat Oklahoma with full health 4 times?
No, I think it'd be a good game, but I don't think they win it. And just because I'm in LA does not mean I'm a Laker fan. There are just fans of the game here in LA.
And then the next question becomes, next year, if you run it back with that team, will it get better or worse?
No, it's going to stay the same. It's not going to get better or worse.
Well, it's going to get worse because Marcus Smart, who's hurt quite often now, will be a year older and more injuries. LeBron will be a year older. And this is the first time. He's still great. He's still close to an All-NBA player. But this is the first time. Now you're starting to see a little bit of slippage on LeBron. Yeah. And unless he defies everything and is better next year, he's not going to be as good. So where are we going here? And so the Lakers probably will be the most interesting team in the offseason to see how they try to retool.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the key. Even if they do run it back, I think some of those peripheral pieces, and I hate to say Marcus Smart is a peripheral piece, but in this Laker team at this stage of his career, he is. They're going to swap those out. But you're right about LeBron. But we've been saying the same thing about LeBron for the last 10 years, and it's never been true. At some point, it will be.
Now you're seeing like a little slippage where for the last 8, up until about a year ago, a year and a half, you didn't see the slippage. You saw him as being a dominant player. And now you're starting to see the slippage. It's not great. He's still a good player, a real good player.
Yeah.
And then the Lakers have to think, you think he's going to take less than $50 million?
Ego
Well,
will
his
not
ego,
allow. You
his
said it. Yeah.
ego is going to be interesting. He's probably a $25 million player now. But,
Yeah.
and by the way, the rumors, I don't know if you hear it out there, rumor is he's going to the Clippers.
Yeah. The rumors are, yeah. But rumors are belly buttons, man. Everybody's got them. Who cares?
It breaks my heart to see the Lakers like in this tough situation. It's a
No,
shame.
of course. No, we appreciate the sincere concern that
No,
you have out here in
second
LA.
greatest franchise in NBA history.
And on that note, you didn't hear it, but the buzzer went off. There is one more topic I would like to chat about, but we don't have time today. We'll do it next week when the season ends, or at least when the last full season ends, week number 25. And it's a very interesting conversation around someone who has picked correctly the last two NBA champions based on analytics.
Briefly,
And
why don't you just briefly just go into it? Briefly.
I'll tease it, but we're not going to talk about it. But this guy has picked 5 statistics that the last 95% of the last NBA champions, the last few NBA champions have had. There's always one outlier, one team that doesn't meet or check every box. I'm not going to tell you all of them, but I'll tell you some of them. So they make sense. Number 1, you have to have a top 10 points per game or rebounds per game person on your team. 28 of the last 30 champions have had that. Makes sense, right? Let's go with number 4. Top 12 in defensive ranking. 38 of the last 40 champions have had that. Defense wins champions. Really solid list. This one's the only one that's subjective, and I'll leave you with this one. This is number 3 of 5. A debatable top 10 player on your team. So you have to have one of the best top 10 players on your team. 29 of 30 NBA champions have had that. The only outlier there, of course, being the 06 Detroit Pistons, who didn't. Okay, so that's a strong list, but it's a bit subjective because what does top 10 really mean? And there's 2 others. You take all of those together, you give them to the computer, and it spits out a winner. And he has been right every single time he has tried this. And I'll be straight with you. The pick this year will shock you. I'm not much of a teaser thing. That's not what we do, but we will discuss that next week with a special shout out to @StepUpSports on TikTok. That account is the one who came up with this. So we'll talk about it and we'll discuss it next week in addition to Steve's random thoughts. All right, that is it. You didn't hear the shot clock go off, but I promise you it did. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Make sure to read Steve's entire 13 Rules Random NBA Thoughts article, which he publishes weekly. We will link it below wherever you are watching or seeing this show. And then again, of course, join us next week when we discuss who's going to win. We'll give it all away. Who's going to win the NBA championship this season according to math? And we will, of course, recap week number 25, the last full week of the 2025-26 NBA season. Steve, we'll talk next week. Thank you.
Take care.